Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
Why are you playing that dumb junk?
Well, because the Blu Ray was just released for the very first time of that silly old show, The Bionic Woman, which I liked when I was a kid.
Well, whatever. I hardly got any sleep last night. So what time is it?
It's Podblast time. That's right. It's Podblast time. I'm just sort of doing a little mini test and a show. I guess I won't call it a test because one of the shows I liked growing up, I'm old as dirt. I don't want to say my age, but I am old. And one of the shows I liked growing up was The $6 Million Man. And there was a spin-off show of that called The Bionic Woman. And these characters were based on a novel by a guy named Martin Caidin, an author who had created and wrote a novel named Cyborg. That was the title of it, Cyborg. And he had created a character, Colonel Steve Austin, who was an astronaut. And he had a terrible crash, and the government made him whole again with synthetic or bionic parts, if you will. He was a cyborg, just like the title of the book would indicate. The Terminator back in '84, James Cameron's masterpiece, the first Terminator movie, was kind of loosely based on that. Not loosely, I think it was more. It was. They took that concept to another level, like an R-rated level of man and machine, and man versus machine, actually. But getting back to the original topic at hand, The Bionic Woman finally hit Blu-ray. The $6 Million Man was released on Blu-ray also back in July of 2022 for the very first time in high definition. I don't know if it was released in 4K as well. I think it might have been. Probably in Japan it's in 4K. These shows are wildly popular in other countries, more so than in the United States of America where they originated from. In Japan, England, and Europe in general, these shows are very, very popular. And I think it's because of the actors. Like, The Bionic Woman was not really a tremendous success in terms of longevity, in terms of television history. It only lasted 3 seasons. And the first season was a winter replacement season. So there was only like half a season worth of episodes. So, like, I think you only had 59 actual 1-hour episodes including two-parters. That includes like part 1 and part 2. Anyway, 59 total episodes of that show. And that's not a long run, not really. Now, it had dramatic highs in the ratings on ABC. It started on ABC, and then it went to NBC. NBC. But the origin of the Bionic Woman rests with the $6 Million Man. A writer named Kenneth Johnson, who was a director and a writer, he's the guy that actually adapted The Incredible Hulk to television from the Marvel comic books back in 1977 with The Incredible Hulk TV movie, and shortly thereafter, based on the rating success of The Incredible Hulk TV movie, actually there were 2 TV movies, The Incredible Hulk and The Return of the Incredible Hulk, A Death in the Family. CBS commissioned that show to be a regular weekly 1-hour show. And that started in March of 1978. But I digress. Before that, Kenneth Johnson, who later created and wrote and produced the original V miniseries with the lizard people. But before that, he was hired to write a 2-part episode of The $6 Million Man towards the end of the 2nd season of that show, titled The Bionic Woman. And basically, Steve Austin is reunited with his high school sweetheart, Jamie Summers, who is younger than him by a few years. She even makes jokes about how he robbed the cradle, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, at the end of the second part of that 2-parter, they killed her off in the skydiving accident. And now, she didn't die from the skydiving accident like you would think. No. Steve Austin begged Oscar Goldman, played by Richard Anderson, to do the radical surgery on her that they had done on him when he was rescued from a terrible crash, a NASA test crash in the pilot of The $6 Million Man, which aired in 1973. And he's basically given electronic limbs. They kind of took some of this in The Empire Strikes Back with Luke Skywalker getting his hand sliced off by Darth Vader. And then he's given, at the end of the movie, you see like a robotic or bionic hand that is replacing the living organic hand that was severed by Darth Vader. Same kind of thing. So anyway, she has an accident, and Lee Majors as Steve Austin, his character says, "You got to make her whole again, like you made me," blah, blah, blah. He's really adamant. He's like, "You have the power to restore her," after a skydiving accident where her legs are crushed and like an arm is crushed. How convenient. It's just like the $6 Million Man, right? He lost 2 legs and a right arm and an eye, and she lost an ear, 2 legs, and the right arm in her accident when she was skydiving in that story with Steve Austin. But, okay, so at the end of that 2-part episode, which aired in the spring of 1975, March of 75, titled The Bionic Woman, by the way, Lee Majors sings in that. He went on to sing the theme song to the Fall Guy. I'm a fan of Lee Majors. I don't want to knock the guy, but of course he can't really sing that great. And he sang a little bit in the Bionic Woman 2-part episode from way back in 1975, which was towards the end of season 2 of The $6 Million Man. And he sings a song titled Sweet Jamie. I should have pulled that clip, God, so I can share with you how bad his singing is in that performance. But anyway, I digress. So Jamie's injured in a skydiving accident in that 2-part episode, actually towards the end of the first part of The Bionic Woman. That's the title of the episode of The $6 Million Man in season 2. And he's begging Oscar Goldman, his boss, essentially, and he's the liaison. How do you pronounce that? I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. He's the government liaison to the Secretary of State. and other officials. Richard Anderson as Oscar Goldman. Oscar Goldman is a liaison to the government. He can authorize getting, bionic limbs attached and all that stuff, which at that time cost $6 million and more with inflation. So anyway, God, where was I going with this? At the end of the second episode of the second part of the Bionic Woman Part 2 episode of $6 Million Man from 1975, the writers had it happen where Jamie's body is rejecting the electronic bionics, the electronic parts, and she's going crazy and she winds up dying. And they kill her off at the end. And at the very end, the very last scene, Lee Major sings again. He sings Sweet Jamie. It's a dramatic scene. And he's before that, he's in the operating room with Jamie Summers as she dies on the operating table. She flatlines. And it's really sad, actually, if you watch that episode. But she was a throwaway character by Richard Johnson, by Kenneth Johnson, the guy who wrote and created that character and wrote that episode. It was a throwaway character. They thought it would just be a two-parter, and Steve's reunited with a high school sweetheart. She has an accident. She's given powers, and then she dies. Well, like I said, that aired towards the end of the second season of The $6 Million Man. And what happened was during the summer hiatus, after it had aired, all the fans and viewers of the show wrote the network ABC a lot of hate mail saying, "How dare you kill off that character? That she's lovely. How could you do that? That's a perfect mate for Steve Austin." And it scored huge ratings in the Nielsen's, more importantly, with the network, which means that advertisers can be charged more rates. Basically, the advertisers can be gouged. Sweeps is basically appearing typically in February, November. And the Nielsen people, which is an independent company, supposedly, that gathers ratings and through sample families. And with that data, if the ratings are good, then a network or a show, really a network, can charge more for an advertiser or a sponsor. So anyway, the ratings went up with that two-part episode of The $6 Million Man titled The Bionic Woman, but yet they killed her off. So during that summer hiatus, they're like, what are we going to do? The public seems to want this character to come back. We've killed her off. What are we going to do? Well, ABC hired the same writer, Kenneth Johnson, to come up with another story, which wound up being a two-part story. The season 3 premiere of The $6 Million Man, split into two weekly halves, titled The Return of the Bionic Woman. And so they said, you got to bring her back. We got to bring her back. So they basically had it be that, yes, she died in the operating table, but then what we didn't see was this other doctor swept in with cryogenic technology, and he froze her brain a la Walt Disney or something and brought her back to life. But when that happened, she lost her memory, so she didn't know she was in love with Steve. It's just like with all these other shows like Star Trek, where they got rid of Yeoman Rand because the network said, we don't want to tie down Captain Kirk with a regular love interest. We want to have all these different attractive actresses come in as guest stars and love interests. That just helps the ratings. That's just the thing. And it actually is sound logic. So that was the case with The $6 Million Man, and a lot of other TV shows. You don't want to bog down the main character, whether it's a male or a female, with a main love interest, like a serious love interest, that might head towards marriage, when they could play the field and they could have different actors. It helps the ratings with variety and whatnot. So, long story short, I'm trying to think where I'm at with this. Okay, so they brought her back, Lindsay Wagner, as the Bionic Woman in the season 3 premiere of The $6 Million Man, and then those ratings spiked. So what did ABC do? They said, we have got to spin off this character, the Bionic Woman, from the $6 Million Man, give her her own show, which they did that same season as a winter replacement show. The Bionic Woman, I think, debuted in January. I know it did. January 1976. So this was, the season 3 premiere of $6 Million Man was at the start of the 1975 to 1976 television season. And that was in the fall. So in the winter, they went ahead and commissioned the spinoff, The Bionic Woman. And then they explained it that she'd suffered when they revived her from the dead. Basically, she suffered some brain damage, so she didn't remember she was in love with Steve. Thus, Steve could go on with other guest stars moving forward and not be bogged down with this. They were engaged. I didn't even mention that. My goodness, they were engaged to be married in the 2-parter, The Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man episode at the end of season 2 of that show. So that's why, it was important to either come up with a story arc or a reason why they would not tie the knot, so that Steve could be free. The character of Steve Austin could be free to mingle with guest stars, sexy guest stars and actresses and stuff. Just, it helps the ratings. That's the mind think anyway. So, The Bionic Woman debuted in January 1976 on ABC as its own series. And, I got to be honest with you. I mean, if Lindsay Wagner wasn't such a great an actor, I don't think that show would have made it. I mean, the writing was a little subpar, except for the ones that Kenneth Johnson wrote, who created The Bionic Woman, the spinoff. The episodes he wrote were great, and there were some others that were above average, but it was kind of like just a blah kind of show. I hate to say it. But I love the show and I love Lindsay. I'm going to show you some stuff on camera in my collection. Some autographs, some TV guides, some still photos from Japan and stuff in just a moment. I'm not going to go too long right now, and I don't know if I'll save this. This is pretty much just a test. Oh my gosh, I hope I'm not in my Podblast page. I hope I'm on my personal page as I'm live here. Anyway, I digress. All right, so I'm going to play some clips as well. As you heard at the very top of this live broadcast, I played you the season 2 and season 3 version of the opening credits of The Bionic Woman. I do have some interviews with Lindsay Wagner. Now, I got a funny story about her. She actually went completely nude in a movie when she was in her 20s, shortly before The Bionic Woman began, and before her 2-part $6 Million Man episode titled The Bionic Woman. There was a movie directed by Robert Wise titled Two People, which is very, very rare. And Robert Wise previously had directed The Sound of Music. And after he directed Two People back in 1971, he directed Star Trek The Motion Picture, which was released in, I think, December 79, shot in 78. He did a whole lot of good stuff. He's a prestigious director, Robert Wise. Well, he also directed Two People. And Jane Fonda's now deceased brother, Peter Fonda, was Lindsay's love interest in this movie, shot in 71, wasn't released till 73 by Universal Pictures. And yes, I have it in my collection on film, an R-rated print of it. And it's a story about a Vietnam deserter played by, can you believe it? Of course, Peter Fonda. He plays a Vietnam deserter. And it's shot in Paris, France, and in Europe. Anyway, and other places. The point is, Lindsay bears all and has like a sex scene with Peter Fonda, and she's fully nude in this movie. Now, this was released in 73, shot in 71, so the Bionic Woman stuff happened in the spring of 75 on $6 Million Man for the first time, and then her show debuted in January 76, so Universal shelved that movie titled Two People. It was never released on home video, VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu Ray, or anything. Now, I read recently there's a campaign to get it released on Blu Ray. Well, for me, it doesn't matter. I have it on film. I have a film print of it, a theatrical, uncensored, uncut, R-rated film print of two people from 1973 in my collection. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I sound like I'm some sort of creep or something. I think it's interesting information that, it was a Universal movie, two people. She was nude before she was, she established herself as a mainstream actor. And she's an artist, right? I mean, Lindsay went for it. I love it. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. So let's continue on with this Bionic Woman story. Kenneth Johnson wrote a story bringing her back from the dead, and I think he wrote the first two-part episode of the spinoff show, The Bionic Woman, which aired in January 76. And like I said, it was a mediocre show. I've got to be honest. But there were some really good above average episodes in the mix. And luckily for me, I'm a collector. I found on film, like the whole series of The Bionic Woman, before it was released on DVD. It was first released on DVD in America anyway, in 2006. And before that, about 21 years ago, I found a contact at an Australian TV station. And I got the prints from Australia, basically, imported. That's where these prints came from. God, this is very much, for the layman, this will be very, very boring. But back in the day, TV distributors, like studios, like Universal Studios or 20th Century Fox or Warner Brothers, for instance, would distribute television shows to TV stations on film. And people like our friend Al Hardy would actually screen a film print over the air nationwide on WTBS, WTCG. Oh, here's one behind me. Here's a film print for the camera. Anyone watching on camera, there's a Space 1999 episode on film, ITC Entertainment. And that's where these films came from. I mean, these are from TV stations that would air them via this format. Well, point being, Universal Studios was the first major studio to make the switch from film to video, quarter-inch tape, to distribute their reruns of television shows. So the reason I mention that is that meant that shows like Columbo, all the Universal shows, like back in the 70s and the 80s, like Knight Rider, Columbo, The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, Knight Rider. I'm just trying to think of some Universal television shows. The Incredible Hulk, that's a Universal show. All these beloved shows, they didn't make film prints of them. They'd already switched to videos, but they did make film prints for other countries or other continents, including Australia. So that's where I got most of these prints over 20 years ago, from a television station in Australia. They're very, 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 very rare. I guess I should start playing some clips and just chill. I don't mean to go too long. And by the way, got to give a shout out. I've already mentioned Al Hardy. I want to thank him again. You can't see it on camera. I'm going to adjust the camera, I guess, to show you this desk that I got. This is from Ted Turner's WTCG Superstation, which they later renamed the call letters WTBS, very famously. And that's the station, of course, that would have programming on the 5, 7:05, 7:35. That was the first time you ever saw that. But knocking on a great desk that Al Hardy sold me for a very modest sum, by the way. And I love it. I have all my gear on it. I have my lighting apparatuses. I have my board. I have all. It's just perfect. And plus, I can work from home like I always do from this desk. It's just wonderful. It fits this little room perfectly, and I'm very grateful to you, Al Hardy. You know that, though. But, I mean, he only charged me $25 for this desk. Another shout out to Basil Chesterman. We call him Tom. Man, this guy is like a video genius. Oh my gosh, he created this awesome montage before the last live show we all did together as a team on Sunday, August the 28th, 2022. And we call his studio Studio East. And he put like the Mr. Microphone ad in there. He put, oh my gosh, Wendy's commercials. It was just an incredible video presentation, not just the video itself, but the way it transitioned from clip to clip. It was really cool. So I want to thank Tom for allowing me to be at his studio. That was a lot of fun. And Al as well the week before that, or 2 weeks before that, whenever it was recently. But gosh, we're getting back to the Bionic Woman here, and the topic. I'm really excited that it's finally been released on Blu Ray. That's the only reason I decided to go live here and embarrass myself. Clip. That's right. We're going to talk about a clip. I think I probably have done a pretty lame job, and I was probably all over the place chronologically talking about the origin of the character. But hopefully I made some sense of it. Let me see what clips I have. I can't remember what I pulled. Let's see here. Well, let's play an interview with Lindsay. I don't know if this is a vintage one. I think, yeah, she's talking about two people where she went fully nude, which I have on film somewhere in my film vault. Let's listen to this.
I think we should review your bionic parts for the people who have not seen Bionic Woman. Well, we ought to take we ought to take a bionic inventory and find out. Now, when you play the character, the Bionic Woman, what is the real woman and what is the bionic part of you?
Gosh. Everything is very real and very natural, except the strength of my right arm, my two legs, and my right ear.
Your right ear?
Yes.
What can you do with that? With your right ear? What are you able to do with it?
Oh, I can hear the tumblers of a safe rolling around. I mean, of a lock when I'm cracking a safe. Or I can. What else can I do? I can hear kids whispering to each other in my class.
Oh, that's right.
That's
you play a teacher as well. You're more interested in having a career on the big silver screen than on television. Is that correct?
Yes.
In terms of your own, what would your ideal projections for yourself be? If you could, write a little scenario for Lindsay Wagner and hope that it would all come true, what would you like to have happen from this point?
I would like to be able to do films that had some substance that I felt was worthwhile to experience for the public and myself, because being an actress, when you're doing what you do, especially if you get into what you're doing, you experience it as well, which is something. The Bionic Woman is really the first time that I've done anything where it wasn't very heavy drama for me. The first episodes of the Bionic Woman, even so, they were, again, very dramatic. I've never been given an opportunity, say, to do comedy, which I'm really enjoying in my show.
And you work comedy into plenty of comedy into
yes, I've been able to work it into the show. And it's really fun. And it's nice to experience, like in Two People, for example, I was a very unhappy girl, right? Very famous New York model kind of thing, and she meets a fellow, falls in love with him, and he happened to be a deserter from Vietnam, so he's on his way to jail, right? So again, it's woe is me.
You know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to touch me.
I know.
No problem.
Well,
I don't think so.
You pussy. I don't think so.
no one could ever accuse you of beating around the bush.
No, but they could accuse him of being a beat-off, I guess.
Oh, I'd never know.
I would.
You're very ethical. Maybe you're just a tease.
Don't pay me.
You were awfully winning on the train, Mr. Bonner.
You're hard to ignore.
You spend 4 months enacting someone who's unhappy. And you spend 4 months being unhappy every day. You go in and make yourself feel unhappy. And Same thing with The Paper Chase, which was the second film that I did. Again, she was
Didn't mention The Paper Chase yet.
kind of a girl in turmoil at that point.
Susan? Rick, he tested me. I failed. I worked so hard on that paper. Well, he may flunk me.
They finally got you, didn't they, Hart? They sucked all that Midwestern charm right out of you. Look, he's got you scared to death. Oh, you're gonna pass because you're the kind the law school wants. You'll get your little diploma, your piece of paper that's no different than this, and you can stick it in your silver box with all the other paper in your life. Your birth certificate, your driver's license, your marriage license, your stock certificates, and your will. Excuse me.
You don't even care.
I wish you would flunk. There might be some hope for you.
So they were kind of down characters.
Yes, I
Going
mean, they
through
were likable.
depressing
They were likable, but they were in depressing periods of their life. And that's the one thing about Jamie Summers, for example, in Bionic Woman, that I'm able to express all kinds of moods.
Okay. I'd like, I've been very impressed with your friend, Michael Brandon, your
Me
boyfriend.
too.
You've been impressed with him. I just met him
For a
yesterday.
year
You've
at
been
least.
impressed with him much longer than I have. Has the experience of traveling in Europe with him been an experience of great abandon, being able to just, no one really knowing where you are, being over here? More freedom in your relationship than when you're back in L.A.?
Yes, well, we have obviously a lot more time to spend with each other. And when we first met, which was in, I think, February, we never left each other's side until I started doing the series. I mean, we were literally together every day.
That wasn't this past February. It was February, what, a year ago?
Oh, yes, I'm
February,
sorry.
a year
Right,
ago.
yeah, a year ago. Okay. And then the series started in November. So we were together all the time up till that point. And then I started working an average day with 16 hours. And come home have time to just throw down some food, read my lines for the next day and say, hello, dear, good night, dear, and go to sleep.
Were you worried that would hurt your...
Very worried, yes. It was a very frightening time period. And we just kind of gritted our teeth, held each other's hand as much as we could, and got through it. Not without pain, and also not without growth. And we're finding that out now that we're here, and we have time to spend together again. And it's fascinating. We are the same, and yet we're different. I mean, we spent so much time apart now that we're coming back together and finding out, gee, how have you changed here, and how have you changed there? And so it's a whole new thing. It's very difficult to say right now, because right now we are in the time period of seeing who each other is or am. I'm supposed to be a school teacher on my show, right?
Why don't we call Michael in?
Why don't we do that?
I would like to have him join us. Well, I know Michael is literally sitting off not far from here at this very moment working on a script for the Bionic Woman, which I think is pretty nice work on vacation.
Yes.
He's very devoted. Michael, come on in for a second.
Coming.
Ah, the garçon.
Ah, bonjour, mon amour.
Bonjour.
Michael.
You kiss him, I'll smack you.
Nice. I'll smack him.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry about that. Have on microphone. Merci.
Voilà.
Are you having a good time on your trip?
It's hard.
How can you miss, right? Tell us about when you met. I read that you saw Lindsay and that was just like love at first sight. Is that true?
You want me to tell you more? That's
What?
it. When I saw her, I
He
fell in
embarrassed
love.
me and then made me fall in love with him.
How long then did it take for you to fall in love?
Well, he picked me up for our first date, and I went home to change clothes a month later.
You kind of
Took me up
moved
to
right
his
in.
ranch. He had a ranch way past Malibu up in the hills, and
Yeah.
that was it.
I was renting this big spread up in northern Malibu, and put her in my Jeep. And the first one, I went to pick her up. So it was the first date, right? And she was wearing some crazy hat and everything. I thought, and she says, "Oh, my date's here." And I thought, "Oh, this is a pass, right?" I said, "Maybe we ought to take separate cars, you know? It's a long way out, you know." And And then we started talking, and all of a sudden we realized we're in just my Jeep, and we're driving, and it's an hour, and I'm running up this road, and the Jeep ran out of gas.
And I said,
A likely excuse.
And then I said, it's a pass, right?
So
I didn't know where I was.
the one neighbor I had up in this mountain area here comes along, just happens
to be driving by.
And gives us a lift, so I don't have a car seat to take her home. So he just drops us off at the ranch. And that was it. We were there a month.
How long have you been living together?
Since a year ago, February.
Been living together since a year ago, February. Now, we were talking before, I don't know, you were off writing, I don't know if you heard everything we were saying, but we were talking a little bit before about your responsibility, Lindsay, to, you know, through your role. What about the public's knowing that you're, living together and you're not married, and you have recent magazine cover story, Why the Bionic Woman Won't Marry Her Lover. How do you feel about that responsibility to people?
Well, I think that my first responsibility is to myself, not to them, and secondly to them.
So what?
That's your answer.
I mean, really, I mean,
Sure.
it's what matters is to us, and we don't, I mean, because of contract, it doesn't make you love each other anymore. In fact, I think we're doing a lot better than most people we know that are married.
I'd like to know a little bit about how you deal with some of the problems that face everybody in a loving relationship, like fidelity. How have you balanced that, the concept of loving each other and
we visit each other a lot.
possibility of loving other people?
Never let her out of my sight.
That's a solution to that, right? Stay with her at all times.
I'm
enormous phone bills.
Well, and when she was away in Canada doing a film, and I was back at the ranch, and I was writing this feature that I've been working on most of the last year, and we talked, and when it got to be we were really meeting, I jumped on a plane the next day, I flew over there, and I lived in her trailer. While she was out working, I was writing 10 hours a day in basements, on locations, anywhere I could sit with crew running around, and I got a lot of work done. And it helps, just to be around, just to be close. As far as fidelity and stuff like that, I was just about giving up on finding the right woman. When I arrived on this planet, I thought that there was one, that, was not only beautiful or not only intelligent, finding her, she satisfies my needs, also my wants. She's beautiful, she's intelligent, and we grow together constantly.
Plus, you can crush a man to death with those bionic legs.
Ah,
How about you, Lindsay? How about how Michael satisfies you?
I feel very much the same way. And his ability to adapt to our situations. The men that have been in my life, and I have loved very strong. I've been very fortunate to have wonderful men in my life. But I found the hardest thing to find in a man is that ability to bend and sway with the way my life pattern goes, because it's not the normal female thing. The intensity of my life.
Career.
I'm into my career, and it takes me places, for months at a time or weeks at a time or whatever. So the question of fidelity is, it's a painful one. It's difficult. It's painful, but unless you keep an open mind about it and are aware of your situation, just simply the fear of infidelity alone can destroy you. You don't even know.
Your imagination could drive you.
Yeah, you may not even
yourself,
find the need to have someone else sexually when you're gone for 2 months. You don't know that. But when you're sitting there thinking, I can't because, or he's sitting here thinking, oh my God, is she? That in itself causes the conflict.
Mm-hmm. This is a bit of a long clip. There's only a few more minutes left, but I've never seen this interview until recently, and I thought I'd share it with you because it's from her back in the day. And this guy, Michael Brandon, I think his name is, her boyfriend at the time, Michael Brandon, I don't know. It's interesting hearing him talk. Anyway, let's continue.
And breaks it up easier than just saying, I love you. Good luck, and I pray to God that whatever happens when you're gone will not destroy or break down, but will build and make you more of something for us to have together when we can be together again. You know.
Were you, Michael, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you ask yourself, what's more important, you know, and you say, is it worth it? You know, I mean, what I've got is so good. Do I want to jeopardize that? You know, sometimes when a situation arises, the answer is easy.
Yeah.
No.
Were you worried, Lindsay, when you hit so big recently? You know, a lot of money, success, again, becoming a star. Were you worried about Michael in terms of his male ego, having to compete with that?
Sure. More privately than expressed, I must admit.
Yeah.
But again, it's a matter of waiting to see the substance here within him. And that's one of the things that's made me fall in love with him time and time again, is his ability to not allow the so-called egotistical parts of himself to put a barrier between the growth of our relationship.
Were you worried, Michael, about how you would deal with her success? I mean, you're holding hands with a potential millionairess.
By the way, in the trades, it was reported that Lee Majors really was angered that supposedly Lindsay was making more money than he was back in the day. And his position was well, I shouldn't say this because I can't misspeak. I don't want to misspeak. And I would love to interview Lee one day. So I probably should not regurgitate tabloid garbage that I've read. But I did read he was unhappy with her making more money. I don't even know if that's doggone true. So I will strike that from the record, even though I'm live and this is being recorded. Just forget I said that. I gotta think before I speak sometimes. Let's continue with the interview.
As a result of the Bionic Woman?
Well, it's her success is something I'm proud of, not jealous of.
Good.
I mean, it's I've had choices of my own to do series to make millions of dollars and all those things, but I was never turned on enough by the creative aspect of it. And now I'm creating my own aspects to involve myself in, and it stimulates me. You know, you can take from that energy and grow from that energy rather than let it drain you. And, you know, she deserves what she gets, and I'm proud of what she's got. And that, you know, that's great.
Lindsay, what are the vibes like around this place? Such a fabulous hotel. Really magnificent. What's it like staying here?
It's very tranquil.
Tranquil.
Almost to the point of stuffy.
Stuffy? Slightly
times,
stuffy?
Yeah. It's an interesting combination of things. Obviously, it's very beautiful.
Oh,
and so it really makes you feel good in some ways. And yet we've been here for quite a few days now. And we found that when we go into town, we come back feeling a lot more alive than we do when we stay here for a long period of time. For example, this terrace right here, we come down here for breakfast. And it can be absolutely full.
But very quiet.
Nobody says a word. And it's frightening. We find ourselves whispering to each other and talking like that. But,
of course, you did come for rest.
Yes, that's exactly why we came here, and which is exactly why it's good. But we noticed the difference yesterday when we went into town. We spent more time in town yesterday than we have. And just not doing anything too terribly active, just picking up a few things that we needed and looking at a few shops. And we just came back feeling great, you know, and we got here and we found ourselves all of a sudden talking like this again, and we were whispering.
Well, it
really does that to you, yeah.
It's a relaxing spot, you know.
So you have to be wanting that kind of feeling.
Well, you did want that, absolutely.
Right.
Do you think that the Riviera is a sexy place, would you say? The French Riviera, we hear so much about it now. You've been here for a while on vacation.
Well, it's sexy. If
titillating, you know what I mean? Titillating.
Looking at titillating is sexy, then it's
looking
sexy.
Looking at topless titillating.
There you go. But it's, you know, sexy is to me, is something that happens between.
It doesn't happen in a neighborhood.
It doesn't happen just looking at titillating. You know?
I got what you mean. Why don't we have a seat over here?
Okay.
Keep talking. I have no idea what this It's a bionic piece of
That's
equipment.
it. Oh, God, I love it. I'll put that back in my leg.
Sit down.
Thank you.
Have a seat.
Okay.
One of the things I wonder about is, have you had a lot of close friends in your life?
No, not a lot. No.
Do you place a high value in wanting or needing friends?
Oh, yes, very much. The friends that I do have are very close, and I very seldom ever lose a friend. Once I feel very close to someone, whether it's a male or a female, it's usually for life, or or up to this point in my life anyway. Fellows that I have gone with, or lived with, or been in love, love with whatever, the situation may have called upon, are probably my best friends, right, at this point in my life.
Some of your former lovers.
Yes, yes, and will
best
continue to be. And they know me best. They've known me the longest. They've known me through many different things. It's like your parents. It's like the family, say, that I didn't have.
Well, I just want to really thank you, because it's been personally a delight for me to visit you here, and really special to get to know you.
Thank you. Me too.
Thank
you. Do we
They
kiss
were
now?
giving me a cue.
All right. So that's on YouTube if you want to watch the video. Bill Boggs interviewed Lindsay Wagner. So that's your search criteria. Bill Boggs. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting, and I just recently heard that and saw that for the very first time. Gonna wind down this little preview of the Bionic Woman Blu Ray release, which just was released August 30th, 2022 for the first time in high definition for home video. It's surprising that people are, and not surprising, but I'm actually happy that people are still buying movies and television shows on home video in the day of streaming. Because the streaming gods can giveth and they can taketh away, as we saw with Friends. The number one streamed show on Netflix. And then NBC moved it to Peacock. So if you didn't have Peacock, but you had Netflix and you were a fan of Friends, you were screwed. You could no longer watch and stream and watch your favorite show, Friends, if you had Netflix. So, I like to have a hard copy of things, and a lot of other collectors and fan gals and fan guys do too as well. Now, I got a picture of Lindsay and I when I met her back in 2006 at her very first convention appearance, and that was in Florida, in Tampa, Florida, in June of 2006. And I look like a total meatball. I have a big fat face. I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. So I've never put this on social media because of that. Because I hate the way I look. But I'm going to put this picture up for the camera briefly. I know people can pause it, but it won't be great quality. If any of my enemies want to screenshot it, and I shouldn't even put that out there. But there's Lindsay and I. She's very, very nice. And also, here's a picture. I've talked about it before. You may not have heard me talk about this on my little show, The Nostalgic Podblast, but I did before. Here's a picture, if you're watching on camera, of Lindsay and Richard Anderson, who played Oscar Goldman. And what a gig he had back then. What a great payday. He was on both shows, The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman, as basically the boss, the leader of the OSI, the Office of Scientific Intelligence. But this still, I'm showing on camera, has Sandra Bullock in the frame, in that same picture, because she was actually a proposed spin-off actress for a character, I think it was the Bionic Girl or something, in the 1989 movie Bionic Showdown. And that was a pretty big role for Sandra Bullock. Now, of course, she's like Hollywood royalty almost, or basically. But this picture that's on camera, I have Richard Anderson's autograph who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and Lindsay's autograph, but I need Sandra Bullock's autograph for the trifecta. Don't know if that'll happen in my lifetime. Maybe Sandra Bullock eventually will do some collector shows, autograph shows, and then I could get the autograph at that point, because she's not on social media. She did a movie called The Net in the 90s, in like 1995, I think it was released. And reportedly, it spooked her. The things in the script about how you can be tracked, and supposedly that's why she's not on social media, because of an experience she had, or an enlightenment she had working on that movie, The Net, which I think is interesting. Anyway, hopefully there's some truth to that. God, I got a horrible feedback. Jeez, I should. Let's see. So what else did I want to show you about Lindsay Wagner and the Bionic Woman? I did pull this up earlier in front of the camera. Back in 2006 in Tampa, Florida, she signed this TV guide for me, which is kind of nice. I love that cover. She signed a bunch of stuff for me, but just a very, very nice woman and super talented. And again, I don't think the Bionic Woman would have lasted even it only lasted 3 seasons, but it wouldn't have lasted beyond maybe 13 episodes if Lindsay were not such a competent actress, in my opinion, and if she didn't look as good as she did. That was great casting and, of course, great acting. I want to show you some other things before I sign off here in my collection that I grabbed. Here's a signature of Roy Finnis, the star of The Invaders, which is a 1967 and 1968 series on ABC TV about an alien invasion. I don't know why this thing's humming. God, it's making me mad. All right, there. God, there it went again. I don't know what the hell's going on. I got some problems in my home studio here. Gosh darn it. All right, let me, I guess, sign off or trash something. Goodness gracious. I don't know why I brought this up. Oh, well, I did want to mention, I got to do a little self-plugging. I interviewed Heather Thomas, seen here on camera, if you're watching on camera, in a pink bikini. She's an actress from TV's The Fall Guy. She was in a movie called Zapped, and a lot of other things, too. But she is very successful, and she married an entertainment attorney and became a mom. And so she had no reason to act anymore. But she's back now doing convention appearances in Labor Day weekend 2022, which rapidly will be in our rearview mirror. She's going to be in Orlando, Florida at the Fanboy Expo with Lee Majors, supposedly, meeting her fans. And she's doing it for the fun, not for the money. She does not need the money. And she was so sweet in the interview with me. So anyway, I just want to show that picture. Lou Gossett Jr. Talk about Beauty and the Beast. No, I'm kidding. I love Lou Gossett Jr. He signed this for me. Remember him from Officer and a Gentleman? He was the hard ass. Was it Navy? I think it was Navy. Navy drill sergeant. And I just think he's a terrific actor. Hell, I even liked him in Jaws 3D. I don't know why I pulled all these. Oh, I know why. The Munsters. Our friend Basil Chesterman is a huge Munsters fan, as is Al Hardy. And there's going to be a new Munsters property that's going to drop soon by Rob Zombie, who brought back the Halloween franchise with mixed reviews. But what I like is that I don't know if he did it. It was probably the casting director that did it, but whatever. Catherine Schell will be in the new Munsters property by Rob Zombie as a character who's a baroness. And if you don't know the name, and most probably don't, but she was a Bond girl, one of many Bond girls in the 1969 James Bond movie On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the only Bond film with George Lazenby in the title role as James Bond. But she was one of the Bond girls. But she also was in Space 1999. I talk about that show ad nauseum. And talk about a dated title, Space, 1999. It's kind of like 2001, I call it, but it's 2001, A Space Odyssey. But back when that movie was released, I think it was 1968. That was way off in the future. But in retrospect, my goodness, does not seem dated. But not as dated as 1999, at least in the 21st century, with 2001, A Space Odyssey, and 2010, the sequel. We're just way in our rearview mirrors. But I thought that was interesting. But Space 1999 was actually a really, really good show that holds up to this day, despite the dated title. And Maya was introduced in season 2. And she was a shape-shifting alien they picked up. Her planet blew up. But let me just show you some of the stills she signed. I met her, Catherine Schell, and she was in a Pink Panther movie, Return of the Pink Panther, back in 1975. Before she was on Space 1999 Series 2, Season 2 of that show as Maya. But I just think she's terrific as a person. And when I met her, listen, I don't mean any offense. I met her in New York City in the year 2000 at the Crowne Plaza off Broadway in Manhattan. And she smoked at that time, cigarettes. And one thing she said, you know how Europeans, she goes, I need to go smoke a fag. And that's just, a fag is what Europeans call cigarettes. So I just thought that was amusing. And I said, well, what did I say? Oh, it doesn't matter. It's late. I didn't even want to say it because it'd be inappropriate as hell. I did say something as a joke and she laughed, but it's just not appropriate. Anyway, let me just show you some things she signed. She signed over 60 items for me for free. And she was so sweet. And back in those days, see, conventions were fun. Like, it wasn't so greedy. It wasn't run by corporate, like radio these days. Corporate ruined terrestrial radio on a national level. They bought up all these independent stations and just ruined them. And the same can be said for conventions in terms of corporations, and that's exactly what happened in most cases. You had, back in the day, mom and pop conventions, very intimate, and it wasn't all about the Benjamins, like she signed all this stuff for free. And Catherine Schell couldn't have been nicer. Let me just tell this bit of a glare there in the camera. There's like a press release for season 2 of Space 1999. It really is a great show. And the guy that did the special effects, Brian Johnson, had worked on 2001, A Space Odyssey, and after Space 1999, he did the special effects for Alien, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I mean, this guy is just an effects genius in terms of space special effects. Here's a picture Catherine Schell signed for me. That's a still from the James Bond movie she worked on, I talked about, on Her Majesty's Secret Service. I try to keep these off social media. And there's in this pack, this is like a plastic bag filled of stills she signed. And I have others beyond this. I mean, she signed incredible stuff for me that I will treasure till I'm dead. And why did I pull this one? Oh, I thought I'd go random here. Maybe I will. I sound like just a total weirdo, and I guess I am. There's Robin Meade. She was a Miss America contestant, I think, in 1992, and she was on CNN Headline News. She might still be. I don't know. Back in 2007, she signed that for me. I just thought she was like the bee's knees in terms of a looker. Let's see what else I pulled here before I sign off. Oh, I was talking about... I do have some more clips of the Bionic Woman. Damn. Because the Bionic Woman is, to reiterate, for those tuning in late, for the very first time, the Bionic Woman has been released on Blu Ray, as was the $6 Million Man back in July 2022 for the first time on Blu Ray. So now both Bionic shows are available in HD for home video consumption. So that's good. That's good for pop culture lovers like you and me. Pop. I said pop. not pot, P-O-T. I said P-O-P. Now, gosh, I guess I'll play a couple clips of Lindsay announcing scenes from the next week's episode of The Bionic Woman. Just a few key ones. And I have, I was talking about those film prints I have. I've sold some on eBay. Gosh, I have some that I guess I'll put them on the auction block. I don't know. I have like key episodes. Hell, I have all the episodes. I shouldn't be saying this shit out loud. Let me play a clip. Let's see what clip I have. All right. There was an episode, a crossover between part 1 was on Bionic Woman, part 2 was $6 Million Man, part 3 was Bionic Woman in the 1976 to 1977 season rather. And the $6 Million Man part of it aired on Halloween night, 1976. And it was a takeoff on Westworld and the Stepford Wives, where you had these robots they called fembots, which Mike Myers later parodied in his successful film series, Austin Powers. But before that, they were the $6 Million Man. Oh, actually, the $6 Million Man had this actor playing the robot maker. And he made robots as well, androids. Henry Jones played the original robot maker back in season 1 of $6 Million Man. I totally digress. I know someone out there will know what the heck I'm saying or where I'm going with this. But they decided to revive that robot maker plot device. And they cast, of all people, the great Oscar winner John Houseman, who had actually acted with Lindsay Wagner in the Paper Chase movie. And then they acted in the TV show too. One of the few big time like stars of a movie that went on to do the TV show. You know what I'm saying? Like he won a damn Oscar for it, and he did the damn TV show. I guess, hey, you never turn down a paycheck, right? Like that's unusual. And he was like the main guy, you know, and he won an Oscar, and then he did a little TV show version of the movie he won an Oscar for. That's very unusual. It's probably the only time that's ever happened that I know of. Anyway. So, gosh, where was I going with this? Oh, I was going to play some clips of next week on The Bionic Woman, including Kill Oscar. Here's part 1, where they brought the robots back, and they called them fembots. And it actually was a pretty damn scary, at least I was like 5 years old when this stuff was airing. And I remember watching it, and I was scared as hell, because like these robots had like these big big wide eyeballs. Well, white and wide eyeballs. And like a speaker mouth when their covering came off, their mask. And it was actually pretty scary. I mean, preposterous nowadays. Like if you watch it now, how the hell could John Houseman's character create a robot that could move with it? Had like, what do we have? Like 1,000 muscles in our faces? And he's painting these little plastic masks, you know, on these robots. You know, of course, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, I'm going to play a little bit of this, 30 seconds of this trailer that recently surfaced. I mean, recently as in the last year, I think a year ago. And this is from the original ABC television network. And I love this. It's a 3-part episode, like I said. And I have it on film. And I just love it. It traumatized me.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but last night somebody knocked me out.
That's the wrong one. Oh, jeez. That's the one she won an Oscar for. Why the heck? Let me find it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think I screwed the pooch on this, folks. Let me see if I can find it. Right fast, quick, because it meant a lot to me. Hang on a second. Growing up. I'm going to find this thing. I'm determined now. Let me see here. Here it is. Sorry, folks. Oh no, that's the music, but it's still coming. Well, I'll play some of this while I get. I gotta gather my thoughts and take a leak. That's the music from that episode. There's part 1 of Kill Oscar, and nobody cares about incidental music. I know, but it's kind of funky, like 70s style, kind of wow, wow pedal music. We'll take a break. Well, let me just say, all right, so this guy, Joe Harnell, scored this music for Kill Oscar, for the fembots and the incidental stuff, but he came up with a cool theme for the fembot robot women. It was like a piano piece, a piano note of music, dun, 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 and then he had like a wow, and then he had a bass piece, a piano piece, and a string piece, and 3 pieces of music that were all like individual pieces of the fembot themes. I know that sounds crazy. Let me just play it in case I'm not even sure. I haven't pre-screened this clip if it'll be audible here, but let me just play it. There's a piano piece of it. so silly. Stupid. I'm going to try to find... Oh, yeah. Here's the trailer I tried to find.
This is Lindsay Wagner. Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
Robots? I call them fembots. These mannequins aren't going to fool anybody.
Good morning, Mr. Goldman.
Good morning, Miss Callahan. Kidnap Oscar Goldman. I order all action units to kill me as soon as possible. Goodbye. Amy! Capture. Increase power on the fembots.
You don't match for us, Summers.
Okay. God dang it. Oh, I did want to... Hang on. All right. Here, now... Y'all are really going to think I've lost it now. I'm going to play a little bit of... If I can find it here. Yeah. I got this soundtrack. The Joe Harnell Estate released on CD. And it's really bizarre. The soundtrack of that Fembot original, like part 1 and 3 of it, because he only did the music for part 1 and 3, which were Bionic Woman episodes. Part 2 was a $6 Million Man episode. And what you just heard was something I found online on YouTube. God dang it! Gosh darn it! Dang it! Let me just play the doggone robot theme before I lose my ever-loving top here. I'm so mad here. All right, let me see here. Let me see if this is it. Yeah, here it is. See, that had all the elements I was trying to describe. The piano piece, the bass piece. Those are like the 3 elements of the Fembot theme by Joe Harnell. I think were cool. Let me see what this is. I think it's the same thing I just played. Oh no, I'm messing up bad. Is that the same thing I just played? I think it is. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh God, I am such a goofball. What the hell is this then? All right, enough of that Fembot crap. But it was impactful for me as a 5-year-old being traumatized by these robot women. Oh man. Okay, so I guess I'm going to conclude. Oh no, I had another clip to commemorate the debut of the Bionic Woman on Blu Ray. Who's texting me? Let's see here. Yeah, I had another clip to play. I wanted to play. Oh yeah, I remember now. I mentioned earlier that Lindsay won an Oscar for playing a character on the Bionic Woman, not Jamie Summers, the one that she played, you know, the main character, but she played like a doppelganger, this redneck woman that was surgically altered to look just like Jamie Summers. And so it was a dual role, like a Patty Duke show kind of thing. God, I'm so pissed right now. That hummed. Can you hear that? And I had a still picture of her Emmy win. Let me find that. You know what? I'm going to play a clip of a trailer to that episode that she won an Emmy for. Well, first of all, God dang, I am like all over the place here. Okay, so what the hell just happened here? Oh, Jesus, Lord in heaven. I had everything all set up. I'm just going to sign off. I'm getting so mad right now. Gosh darn it. Let me see if I can fix this. Fuck you. God. I'm sorry I shouldn't cuss. I'm trying to be good. Guess I'm dead in the water. All right, well, it was all a test. All a test. God, that makes me so mad. I lost all my clips. I had all these clips pulled. Let me see. Let me try one more thing to save this thing. Oh, here we go. Golly, so embarrassing. You know what? Screw that. Let me see if I can. It should all pop right up. I got it. Got it. Sorry, folks. All right.
Oscar, this is Jamie. This is Lindsay Wagner. Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
All we know is that she had plastic surgery recently.
As far as I know, I've got the patent on this face. Now, if somebody's cranking them out in quantity, I think it's up to me to do something about it.
We've got to find her connection. Find the connection and get that film back here.
There's only going to be one Jamie Summers now. Oscar, there's Lisa.
So Lindsay was playing Lisa Galloway, this redneck chick. You could hear her doing a southern accent, who was surgically altered, a criminal, surgically altered to look like Jamie Summers to steal this drug. And she won an Emmy Award for playing that dual role when they brought the character back in season 2. That clip I just played was from season 1 when they introduced that character. So she would basically she played that character in 3 episodes of The Bionic Woman. I thought I had pulled. Yeah. All right. So here's part 1 of the season 2 revival of that character, Big Whoop.
Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but last night somebody knocked me out. They brought me to this prison and exchanged me with a woman who looks exactly like me. Her name is Lisa Galloway. I am not Lisa. My name is Jamie. I'm Jamie Summers.
This is Lindsay Wagner. Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
Adrenalizine. Now you have everything she has.
It's just like Jamie.
It won't take much anesthetic to finish her off. Then Jamie Summers will be buried with Lisa Galloway's face.
Okay, that was Catherine Hellman. I think Hellman was her last name. She was in Soap. The redheaded older woman. Let me see here. What else did I have to play for you now? Unbelievable.
This is Lindsay Wagner. Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
Robots?
I call them fembots.
No, I already played that. God, I am so bad. I'm messing up left and right. Where is it?
They're stronger than Bionics.
This is Lee Majors. Don't miss the next episode.
Oh, God.
They're stronger than Bionics.
This is Lee Majors. Don't miss the next episode of The $6 Million Man.
My fembots are as strong as your bionics, and you're outnumbered.
You're going to kill Oscar.
Now, will you surrender?
Steve Austin is one of Franklin's robots. Robots.
Again, I'm just celebrating the fact that The Bionic Woman is finally on Blu Ray as of August 30th, 2022. So that's good. Here's another quick 30-second trailer.
He could make them as beautiful or as deadly as he wanted to. Jamie, they'll never operate again.
This is Lindsay Wagner. Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
Tammy Cross is a fembot.
What?
Please let me in there.
If I do, it'll kill me. If anybody gets in here, it'll kill me.
As long as he stays in the isolation chamber, you can see him.
Well, I'll see him.
There's a girl following you.
She's very dangerous. Attack!
If you break the glass, you'll kill him.
Forget it, Oscar. They're only bluffing.
No!
Wow. right. So ABC, in their infinite unwisdom, canceled both Wonder Woman and the Bionic Woman at the end of the 1976 to 1977 season. Both of them. And each show went to different networks. Wonder Woman went to CBS from ABC, and the Bionic Woman went to NBC from ABC. And the fembots went with her. And they brought those characters back. What you just heard was a trailer from, I think it was like the third episode. Yeah, the third episode on NBC of that show. And it was a two-parter, Fembots in Las Vegas. And again, these characters made a huge mark in pop culture land. I mean, that's why Mike Myers created the fembots in his Austin Powers movies I talked about a minute ago. But I thought they were great. I guess I'll mention this too. There was another impactful two-parter of the Bionic Woman. It was a total ripoff of 2001, 2001, whatever you want to say, A Space Odyssey. Hal can't do that, Dave. You know that robot, that monotoned robot that was controlling the environment of the astronauts? Well, they totally ripped this off. Actually, hate to say it, Kenneth Johnson did, who wrote and directed this two-parter Doomsday is Tomorrow in season 2 of The Bionic Woman, where she's squaring off against a machine. And anyway, let me just play the damn trailer and shut the hell up. Let's see. Here's part 1, the trailer for part 1 of that two-parter.
I have now created a device that can render the entire world lifeless.
This is Lindsay Wagner. Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Bionic Woman.
The Doomsday device is controlled by Alex. He's the highest form of computer art.
So you intend to blackmail the world?
We will continue with our nuclear research, but that would trigger the Doomsday device. We've got to disarm that Doomsday device.
That's a minefield.
It was actually a pretty good episode, but it's kind of ham-handed, like an anti-war thing, and that's fine. No, nobody likes war. And Richard, I love Kenneth Johnson, the writer-director. Met him twice. Had dinner with him at a banquet, at a collector show. And he's a very nice guy. And he wrote it. It's actually it's a nice story, but it's a little ham-handed at points in that two-parter. But I should sell my film print of that. Man, I bet that would go for some good coin. But I kind of like it because that's one of the episodes you remember of that show. And that's the thing about the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. Before Blu Ray and DVD, all you had was syndication. And so they had so many crossover episodes. And some of those episodes would go in the Bionic Woman package, a la the Fembot crossover. And some would go in the $6 Million Man package, a la the Return of Bigfoot two-parter. Part 1 was the season 4 premiere of the $6 Million Man. Part 2 was the season 2 premiere of the Bionic Woman, but they went into the $6 Million Man rerun package. So if your town was airing, like on an independent station, the $6 Million Man, you saw the first 2 episodes with the Bionic Woman Part 1 and 2 we talked about earlier. Or I talked about earlier. And then you had like some of the other crossovers, but you didn't have like the fembots. So if your town was playing the Bionic Woman, you had the fembots, but you didn't have the damn origin story of how the Bionic Woman became bionic. So thank goodness that now with home video, all that stuff is released so that you can see. And what's cool is Universal, who owns the rights to both shows, they've actually like duplicated stuff in each set. Like you'll see if the Bionic Woman's in a $6 Million Man episode and you bought the Bionic Woman set, at least on DVD, I haven't seen the Blu-rays yet. You would get those episodes. They would package it all together and vice versa. $6 Million Man would have, if there was a crossover story, they would go ahead and put all the episodes, whether it was a Bionic Woman episode with $6 Million Man in it, on the $6 Million Man set. So anyway, before I go, let me see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, Just going to mention Ken Johnson, who had created the Bionic Woman. By the way, on camera, if you're watching on camera, you'll see one of the fembots at the back of the compact disc soundtrack. So Joe Harnell's incidental music for Kill Oscar Part 1 and 3, because Part 2 was a $6 Million Man episode. A different musician or a different person orchestrated that music that I won't mention, not because I don't like them, it's because I don't remember their name. Oliver Nelson did a lot of the $6 Million Man music, but he did not do that particular episode, which aired on Halloween night. Kill Oscar Part 2 was a $6 Million Man episode, which aired Sunday, October 31st, 1976 on ABC. Anyway, there's the cover of this little silly soundtrack. I'm a dork. And then, Mr. Johnson, Kenneth Johnson, I talked earlier how he also created V, the lizard aliens, and there's a cool little still picture for those watching on camera. That, and he's dead. Richard Hurd played John, the lead, spelled Jahn, the lead alien, and he's exposed in V, the Final Battle, I think it was, or was it V? Kenneth Johnson directed V, the miniseries, the original one from 1983. And he never did anything else with that project. But, no, that was V, the Final Battle. Yeah, I know that. Wasn't it? Damn, I'm getting old, folks. Anyway, God bless Richard Hurd. Let's see what else I got on the back here, just to show for the camera. I got all sorts of interesting autographs in my collection. Here's Batgirl. She's also gone, unfortunately. Yvonne Craig, the original Batgirl. And by the way, I may auction that off. I have the on 16 millimeter film, the Batman season 3 premiere first episode that introduced Batgirl. I'm not terribly attached to it. I don't know. I guess I'll keep it. Al Hardy has put in my mind, I shouldn't say on the air, but I'll say it anyway. He's putting in my mind that all films will go bad if it's on acetate film stock. And I don't agree with that necessarily. But he did put some fear in my mind that you better sell it or you're going to lose it. Because basically if a film goes vinegar, you might as well just throw it in the garbage. It deteriorates rapidly where you can't even project it anymore. Like you've all seen what film strips look like. 35 millimeter has sprockets on either side. 16 just has it on one side. But point being, if the sprockets erode and the film erodes, and what's the term? There actually is a term for it. I'm trying to think. Emulsion, not emulsion. Oh, gosh. Anyway, it doesn't, long story short, it doesn't matter what the term is, but the sprockets become so brittle, and sometimes they break apart, and sometimes they just shrink, where the projector literally will not play the film. So once a film starts to smell like vinegar, you better treat it or just throw it away. And it's very unfortunate. That's the thing I didn't realize when I started collecting films back in the 90s. If I knew that, I probably would have taken up another hobby. Anyway, not all films will go vinegar. Like if there's a film stock called Mylar, Mylar, it'll never go vinegar. Now the film color may fade on that print, on that stock, but it will never go vinegar. The best film stock is, in my opinion, Fujicolor and Technicolor. But what do I know? I'm just a collector. So I guess I'm going to say goodbye for now. And again, I'm very, very grateful to Al for the use of this. Not use of, he sold me this awesome desk. I've got to get this on camera or take a picture and put it on social media. It's an incredible desk from the Ted Turner Company, Turner Broadcasting, from the 70s. that Al got for free. Sold it to me for $25, and I just love it. And I just love what Tom did too. In our last group show we did live Sunday, August 28th, 2022 at his fabulous Studio East home studio. He did an incredible video montage that blew my mind. I didn't see it while we were live. I watched it after the fact. And he put a Mr. Microphone ad in there. And Joey Tata died, best known for those out there in the Generation X realm as Nat in Beverly Hills 90210, who owned the Peach Pit, right? Well, I don't know if Tom even knows this. Maybe he does. But at the beginning of the Mr. Microphone ad, it's Joey Tata saying, here, let me tell this Christmas party getting a little quiet. Here, let me turn this on. He goes, oh, you're on the radio. And that's Joey Tata in that ad from like 1978, I'm guessing. Anyway, I thought that was cool. When I watched that, I'm like, did he know that? That's Joey Tata? But it was Joey Tata right there. What is this? Oh, I meant to play this earlier. Shucks. When I was talking about the fembots and all that garbage. It's not garbage. I love it. But that was the only Kill Oscar Part 1. It was a 3-part crossover. Part 1 was on the Bionic Woman. Part 2 is $6 Million Man. Part 3 is Bionic Woman. Yada, yada, yada. Well, Part 1, they had a unique version of the theme of the Bionic Woman, like a different theme, which they later used in the end credits of the Bionic Woman season 2 and in season 2 and in season 3. Well, they used it in the opening credits, and I think it's a more heroic, less feminine theme than the Jerry Fielding main theme of the Bionic Woman. I won't play it. I'm going to play it just a minute or so here. So they only use that in the opening for that one episode, Kill Oscar Part 1. Big whoop. But I like that little heroic music. Oh, no. That sounds like a fart. All right. Other thing on camera, if you're watching, that's a British annual. In England, they had these hardcover books based on television shows that were popular in America. And I think they had some for British shows as well, like maybe the Avengers and things. But what I'm showing on camera now is the second Bionic Woman British annual. And you see Max, the Bionic Dog. And I have that 2-parter on film called The Bionic Dog. And that actually is an episode that really resonates with my child mind's eye, because I remember watching that. It was actually a kind of a sad episode with what happens to that dog, where they have flashbacks where he was in a fire, and it's really kind of sad. The way they shot it and everything, and the way they wrote it. And that's just one of the key episodes of my mind of the Bionic Woman. Here are the key episodes to me, and I'm more of a $6 Million Man fan, but the Fembot episodes, because that's a crossover for sure. Doomsday is tomorrow, the 2-parter I talked about, directed and written by Kenneth Johnson, about the end of the world. and I played the little preview, 30-second preview to part 1 of that. Deadly Ringer with Lindsay playing Lisa Galloway, the 2-parter in season 2 where she won an Emmy for her performance there. That's a key. And then the Bionic Dog, I think that's a key. And then like I said, all the Fembot episodes, including Fembots in Las Vegas. It sounds so ridiculous when you say these titles. It really does. And you know what? If you're older than me, you're going to think it's lame as hell. But I guess you have to be in that sweet spot age. You know, a young Gen Xer, you had to have been a kid, I guess, to have seen it. Kind of like, you know, people older, like you had to watch the Munsters, you know, when you're a kid or whatever, you know, you had to have been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, but even today, so I'm showing the British Annual, and if you look at that lower part of Lindsay in the blue and white striped top, that's from Kill Oscar Part 1. She's running to save her boss's life, played by Richard Anderson as Oscar Goldman. And then you see Maximilian from the following season. That shot's from season 3. And I hate that shot that the Brits used of her above that. It's just not a flattering look. Her hair doesn't look good. Her face doesn't look good. And here is the first British Annual of the Bionic Woman hardcover. And they have like comic strips in there. They have puzzles, articles, and sometimes, unfortunately, inaccurate information, as I found out in the Fall Guy British Annual, that claimed that Heather Thomas was born in Santa Barbara, California, when I read elsewhere she was born in Connecticut. Anyway. So often I complain about how the internet is inaccurate with their stats, whether it's Wikipedia or IMDb, but hell, books can be inaccurate as well. You just have to do your homework and do your due diligence and do your research. So I am going to finally sign off here. This was just an impromptu thing to celebrate. I just found out, I didn't find out, I knew, but I was reminded the Bionic Woman is going to be released on Blu Ray. And again, I'm more of a $6 Million Man fan, but I'm certainly a fan of Kenneth Johnson's work back in those days. And he also did, oh my gosh, I didn't mention this. I mentioned V, but this guy created the Bionic Woman when he wrote the Bionic Woman Parts 1 and 2, $6 Million Man, towards the end of season 2 of that show. He also adapted The Incredible Hulk to television. The Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno classic television show that lasted for 5 seasons. Actually, season 5, those episodes were shot during season 4's production. People don't realize that. Season 5 was a short season in 81, 82. There were only like 5 or 6 episodes, and there were episodes shot during the production of season 4. But anyway, oh gosh, I had other stuff to show you, but I don't have time. I just have to sign off. Oh my gosh, I got stuff to do. It's a work day, and it's anyway. But Kenneth Johnson, to me, is very underrated, underappreciated, and I wish maybe he chooses not to work in the business anymore. I don't know. But he's a very, very nice man. I met him twice in Burbank, California, and then before that in Tampa, Florida, in 06 and 07, respectively. And he treated me with the utmost respect and kindness. And I like his writing. And he's just a good guy. So I wish he would do more just as a fanboy, so I could, just consume and absorb the next chapter for him. Anyway, so let's say good night or goodbye, and I wish you all a great, great Labor Day weekend.